Hello, everybody. Let me figure out the best place to position my phone here. All right, I think that's what we're going to do here. Okay, welcome everyone to today's live. My name is Rena Reiser, and I am a polyvagal informed focusing trainer. What that means in regular terms is I'm a big nervous system nerd, and I love everything to do with somatics, to do with our bodies. I found that is really the greatest way for us to regulate our emotions and change our behaviors in the most effective way. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you an overview of what it means to work with our bodies and also understand our nervous systems. And then what we'll do is I'll take you through a short exercise on how to kind of incorporate everything, which is really my favorite way to allow us to regulate our emotions and our nervous system states, our behaviors, regulate our lives, basically. So as we get started with focusing, I want to start there. Focusing is a modality that works with the body, works on a somatic level with the body for us to get a sense of a circumstance in our lives. So if, for example, if I asked you, have you ever been nervous about something in your life? You'd say yes. I would say, okay, where did you sense that in your body? Like, have you ever felt butterflies in your stomach when you were nervous about something, right? Or if you ever felt sad about something, did you ever feel like a lump in your throat? Or if you're ever excited about something, was there ever like an expansive feeling like in your heart area? So all of those things are what we call a felt sense. It is our body's way of talking about whatever our life circumstance are, whatever's going on for us in the moment. And so when we look at our situations in life, things that we want to change, things that we want to be improving, things that we want to be different, we have a tendency to try to do things on a cognitive level, right? To try to come up with pros and cons lists and to change our thoughts and to come up with all different ways of reframing the situation. And what focusing allows us to do is to kind of bypass all of that conscious, logical thinking and allow our bodies to do the talking. And the reason why this is so effective is because what science is showing today is that actually 80% of the messages come from our bodies up to our brains, and only 20% go from our brains down to our bodies. So let's say we have a situation in life. Let's say there's a behavior that you are wanting to change. Let's say, for example, you want to, be nicer to someone in your family. Let's just say, could anyone relate? I will raise both my hands. You want to be nicer to somebody in your family. So oftentimes what we'll try to do is we'll say things like, okay, I'm going to take 10 seconds. I'm going to take a few deep breaths before I walk in and interact with this person. And I hope everything's going to go okay. But what ends up happening is I come into the situation with this family member and I get triggered and my body starts getting activated. And all of these ideas that I wanted to do of taking deep breaths and being patient with them kind of go out the window. And I lose sight of being able to do that. So let's say I would take that situation ahead of time or after the fact, not during the situation. It's very, very hard during the situation itself. But after the situation, if I would spend some time sensing into this whole circumstance, this whole relationship, with this person, and I would invite my body to give me a sense of the situation. And I'm going to slow this down because I'm kind of going to try to do this like in the moment right now as we're doing this together. I sense into, how does my body feel about this situation? And as I start to sense into it, I notice my heart beating a little bit faster than usual, maybe. I notice my breath being a little bit stuck. And then I ask myself, can you stay with that for a bit, right? Like my body's starting to give me some messages about this whole situation. So I'm like, okay, there's a lot of pressure that I feel about this situation. and I feel it in my chest. There's like a heaviness there. So then I sit with that heaviness. Okay, so this is starting the process of focusing. I'm not going to go into so much detail right now because I want to go on to the next thing before we come back to this. So that's the starting point of focusing, is being able to sense from my body, sensing into the felt sense of a whole situation. Okay, so that's the beginning of focusing. Then we also have the polyvagal aspect of it, which is our nervous system aspect of whatever the situation is that we're dealing with. So let's talk a little bit about our nervous systems. Hashem created our nervous systems as a way to help us stay protected in this world. Our nervous systems are constantly seeking, in every single situation, they're sensing, is this safe, is this dangerous, or is this life-threatening? In every single microsecond of our lives, our nervous systems are sensing, is this safe, is this dangerous, or is this life-threatening? So let's go back to that example. I want to be nice to my loved one, and I'm having a really hard time with that. When I approach this situation, even though cognitively I know that this relationship is okay, this relationship is safe, and I'm okay in this relationship on a physical level, there's something triggering on an emotional level in this relationship, and so my nervous system views parts of this relationship as not okay, as a little bit dangerous. So if you remember from before, I started talking about my heart rate getting faster, my breath not being as deep. That's because there's a part of our nervous system called our sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for activating the fight and flight response. And so when I think about that situation, in that relationship, and my body starts giving me the response that it has of feeling overwhelmed, right? Feeling all of these physical reactions about this situation, that happens as a result of my nervous system sensing that something's not okay about this situation. And again, even though everything might be safe and okay on a physical level, there is a part of my body, my nervous system, is neurocepting that there's some sort of danger here. There's something about this situation that isn't okay. And so my body will get thrown right into fight or flight. So that's one way that our nervous systems respond. Another way that our nervous systems respond is going into, let's call it shutdown, collapse, fold. That's where we go into immobilization, and you can see like my body kind of folding forward as I do that. And those are in situations that feel a little bit more life-threatening. So our nervous systems are always responding. And when we can bring these two together, we can bring the idea of our felt sense and our nervous system together, then we can actually start to regulate our life in it's not necessarily easier, but it's a simpler way, as opposed to needing all of the thousands of different ways that we could possibly go ahead and work on regulation, and all of those things are important. There's a time and a place for them for sure. But if we want to start creating those changes from the inside out, this is one of the ways that we can do it. We start to listen in to what's going on inside of our bodies. We get a sense of where our nervous systems are as it relates to whatever situation we're in our lives. And then we ask our bodies to give us a sense of how our bodies feel about this situation. And when we do that, what happens is when we bring awareness to what's going on inside of our bodies, and we can sit with it, and we find just the right distance to stay with whatever is going on inside of us, there's this powerful moment that is referred to as the felt shift. That's when all of a sudden, like, we might feel flooded or overwhelmed with whatever is going on in our lives, whatever we're feeling, right? The feelings about whatever's going on in our lives. And we can stay with it and we sit with it. And then what happens is it starts to transform and it starts to shift. And there's a moment where our nervous systems say, okay, everything's actually okay. Right? If I was able to sit with the way that I feel about a situation, that means my life's not in danger right now. If my life was in danger, I wouldn't be able to sit with my feelings, right? I'd be running away from the bear, climbing up the tree with all of my strength to get away from that bear. That's my nervous system getting activated when I'm in a dangerous situation. If I'm able to sit with what is going on inside of me, and then that shows my nervous system that everything's okay. Everything is safe right now. And my nervous system starts to calm down. And what happens is, over time, when we can show our bodies and our nervous systems that even though we can have difficult circumstances in life, because let's face it, we all have challenging situations in our lives. Nobody has a easy life where everything just, everything's perfect. We all have challenges. And so when we can over and over and over again show our bodies that we can sit with not just our feelings, but we can sit with the whole sense that our bodies have about a situation, our nervous systems start to calm down. And you might have heard about this term called neuroplasticity, which is another thing I like nerding out about, which is essentially our brains create neural pathways about the different things that we do in our lives. So if you are someone who is able to walk, the reason why you don't stand and think about every single movement that you need to make in order to take 1 or 2 steps forward is because back when you were a toddler and you were learning how to walk and you stood up, right, and you were finally able to stand without holding on to anything, and you were able to gain your balance. That's because your brain created neural pathways that said, this is what standing is. This is how we do it. And then when you started taking a step forward, so your brain created those neural pathways of this is how we take a step forward. And so on and so forth until you were walking and running all over the place. Because if your brain needed to sit there and calculate every single step that you would take, you'd be exhausted, right? Think about a toddler that's learning how to walk. All of their energy goes into learning that skill that they're doing right then and there when they're learning how to walk. And so being able to be efficient, Hashem created our brains in such a magnificent way that they can be so efficient that they don't have to sit and think and try to figure out every single step of the way, literally. But these neural pathways get created, these neural pathways get formed, and that becomes our way of doing things. And this is true not just for walking, this is true for every single thing that we do in our lives. And once these neural pathways get created, they stay there unless somebody has some sort of a traumatic brain injury that happens, or stroke, chas v'shalom. Those neural pathways stay there. And so when we have a tendency to deal with our emotional regulation in, let's call it maladaptive, but I'm not such a fan of that word, but let's call it maladaptive ways. So instead of being able to sit with my emotions and sit with the difficulties that I experience in my life, I go and eat, for example, or I go and go shopping, or I go and do whatever maladaptive behaviors I might do instead of actually dealing with the inner world that I have around this whole situation. That starts to become the default neural pathway that my brain does. So what happens is then I get triggered by whatever I get triggered by in life. And before I know it, I've eaten whatever I've eaten in the cabinet, right? Without really realizing. Like, it's almost like it happened in a fog. I don't even remember going to the cabinet and eating whatever I ate, because that's the neural pathway that I've created. There's good news though, because the same way that neural pathway got created, I can create a different neural pathway. And there are some neural pathways that are easier to create, like the ones where we're like checked out and it just kind of happens and it becomes our default and there's very little resistance inside. So that pathway can get created pretty easily. But when there's resistance to something, that's also a sign that maybe there's something I can do. I can check in with what's going on inside of me, help myself overcome that resistance, create those new neural pathways that I'm looking for. And then what happens over time is as I create those new neural pathways, that starts to become the default. So if in that situation within it, it's going to be really hard to choose something different. So if my tendency is to choose, again, it's not like a conscious thought, but if my tendency is to go to the cabinet, the kitchen cupboard and grab whatever food, after the fact, if I take time to actually be with this situation, I take time to reflect on it, I take time to be with it through my body, not just on a cognitive level, but really through my body, to actually sit with the situation, get a sense, what was my nervous system state when all that was happening? I got triggered by whatever happened in life, right? Something happened within a relationship. I got triggered. What nervous system state did I go into? Did I go into fight or flight? Did I go into shutdown? Did I go into freeze? Was there some kind of other mixed state going on there? And really bringing that awareness to my body, to what's going on inside, and then actually being able to sit with the sense of it. And I don't just mean the emotions, I mean the felt sense of the situation. So bringing it into my body and getting a sense of, whoa, this whole situation, this whole triggering event that happened with that person in my life, how does my body respond to that? What does my body have to say about it? And I'm just going to go back to the example I gave at the beginning, my heart racing, my breath not going as deeply, a heaviness on my chest. Okay, and sitting with that heaviness that's on my chest. So it's not just the emotion of maybe I was feeling angry, maybe I was feeling frustrated, maybe I was feeling sad. There's the emotion, and then there's how my body feels about it. The sense that my body has about the emotion. How sadness feels in my body. And so I sit with that heaviness in my chest. And just by taking a minute, 5 minutes to sit with that emotion that I'm feeling in my chest, that actually allows my whole system to start to relax. Because my system starts to learn it's okay to sit with whatever's coming up. It's okay to sit with whatever feelings, whatever thoughts are present, whatever nervous system states are present. I can handle all of that. There we go. I can sit with all of this. I can be with whatever's coming up inside of my body because I have the capacity to do so. And that signals to my nervous system that we can relax. It's okay. And this works about 4 times as effectively as just trying to change my thoughts around the situation and just trying to reframe it and look at it differently. When we go into the body, we're actually utilizing like 4 times like 80% of our what's called our vagus nerve. It runs from our brainstem all the way through our body, through our main organs. 80% of the fibers run from our bodies up to our brains, and only 20% run from our brains down to our bodies. So we can actually create a lot of change by going through the body and utilizing it that way from the bottom up, sending messages to our brains that we are okay, that everything is okay right now. So I want to walk you through what this would look like in practice, because like I said, there's lots of ways that we can regulate our nervous systems, regulate our emotions, and they're all important. Things like going for walks, getting out in the sunlight, going to sleep, talking to friends. All those things are important, and all those things are great, and all those things have a time and a place. However, when we can actually be with whatever is going on inside of our bodies, we can affect the change. We can affect the change much on a much deeper level and create those new neural pathways. So let's do this now together. And if you're driving, do not close your eyes. Do not go as deeply into this. You can come back to it later and actually do it when you're not driving, because your safety is number one. So let's start off by choosing something that's not the most triggering situation that you have in your life, but maybe something that's like a 3 out of 10, where 1 is not triggering at all and 10 is super, super intensely triggering. So think about something that happened in the last day or so that is like a 3 out of 10. And if you have nothing, then teach me all your tricks, because we all have something, right? Something that feels triggering, something that overwhelms us a little bit. So bringing that idea to mind, that thing that's about a 3 out of 10. And then take a few deep breaths. Letting your breath go as deep as it would like to right now, not forcing it in any way to be any different than it is. And noticing how your body is seated or reclined or lying on the surface that you're on. Noticing how it's supporting you. And then inviting this situation into your body. Inviting this trigger into your body. And notice initially how your nervous system responds when you think about this situation. Do you feel calm and regulated? And if that's the case, maybe choose something a trauma triggering, maybe. Do you feel like it throws you into fight or flight? Or do you feel like it puts you into shutdown? Like all you want to do is just lie down and collapse. And so noticing that, and noticing how you know in your body that's where your nervous system's at. What are some of the signs that this is the nervous system state that your body went into? And then getting a sense of where you feel this whole situation in your body. Noticing if there's maybe a heaviness somewhere, a tightness, a sharp feeling somewhere, or anything else. It can feel any hundreds of different ways inside of your body. And noticing where you feel it in your body. And then seeing if you can stay with that for a bit. Finding just the right distance from this felt sense within you. This is how your body's feeling right now. And seeing if you can stay with it. And then we'll ask this sense that you're having inside of your body, you'll ask it a few questions. So you might start off by asking it how it's feeling right now. And listening with compassion to what it has to say. And waiting for it to respond. And again, our body speaks in its own timeline, its own way. So noticing how long it takes for some response, knowing that that's okay. And then maybe asking it, why do you feel this way? And listening compassionately to what it has to say. And then asking it, is there anything you'd like me to do for you? and listening compassionately to what it has to say. And then finally asking it if there's anything else it would like you to know. And listening again with compassion to what it has to say. And then empathetically letting it know that you heard it. And this might sound funny, having this conversation with your body, with parts of your body, but letting it know that you heard it. And then checking back in with it and noticing how it feels now. Noticing if it's shifted in any way. And if it has, this is the felt shift that I was talking about at the beginning. That's the moment where our nervous system starts to relax. And, sometimes if this is your first time doing something like this, it can feel overwhelming at first because, where do I go? There's so many things that came up. It can feel like a lot. But notice if there has been any change. There has been any shift at all. And then checking in around your nervous system state. Are you feeling any more calm and regulated than you were from when you started? Maybe naming the nervous system state that you have now. And knowing that what you did here in this exercise was start to chart the path for those new neural pathways of doing things differently instead of defaulting to our old patterns and our old ways of doing things. You're actually training your brain to start to do things differently. And that leads to greater regulation in our nervous systems and our bodies overall, which leads us to making the decisions that we want to be making that are more aligned with our values. So this might sound funny, but maybe taking a moment to thank your body for what it shared with you, letting it know that you'll be back to listen more. And congratulations on creating those new neural pathways in your brain.